Okay, we are going into the language stuff that has a lot of people have been talking about nationally, and it continues to be discussed rigorously in the academic arena, not so much in the government and policy arena yet, except in Vermont, because of what I was describing before. Vermont is small. We know each other. We have the gift of connection and seeing each other and caring, and then plugging in and recognizing that we're not alone in feeling that way. So that's where all this whole clarity in language comes from. And it's unique. The story I want to tell today is because it comes from a place and starts from a place of true compassion, which then expands out into something that is truly scientifically rigorous and something that ends up encompassing and including every single human being who is engaging in this work. So that's what I want to talk about. I just, first of all, want to give you a quick list about why language clarity matters. These are just a few examples and reasons why speaking clearly, communicating clearly is so important. All of these things. Like I said, there are a lot of discussions happening in academia. There's a lot of research coming out right now that explains and provides data, scientific evidence that language shapes public perception. I mean, it sounds so obvious, but we have data now that proves this. And this recognition really was helpful to me because as a non-white Vermonter working in this space, I come to this space with my own background and history and experience. And it was important for me while we looked at the noxious weed rule language, when we opened it, we actually slowed down and we said, what actually is happening here? It's easy to just get stuck in here and go to process. And in that moment, one of the things that I recognized was there was language in there that was outdated and it was harmful to me. And I will talk a little bit about that. But more than anything, I think it's important for me to explain that while we were sitting there at the table, it was truly one of my career light moments of recognition when I'm looking at a rule open before a group of normal, everyday people and the power and access to power that we had as a team to actually influence some of the things that we see problems with. And it was this recognition of, oh my gosh, we can just be the change that we need to see. And we can be it through the language and through the areas that we can actually change. And in that, this is where the compassion and I think different perspectives is so important. This idea we stumbled across, two-eyed seeing, it's so important to name and acknowledge the indigenous cultures and the indigenous wisdom that never forgot that we are always in relationship with the natural world, and their language has never separated from that. And part of the, I think, uniqueness in my role in this, which allows me to communicate complexity in a meaningful way, is that I play a dual role in this realm. I play and have participated in active harm. I have led that in Vermont. And I am also one of the few people in Vermont, and I am the right now, as far as I'm aware, the only person in the working realm who is being actively harmed by the language on a daily basis. So I have both of them and I get it. So, that puts me in a unique position where I feel like I have to say something, and I welcome challenges because I get it on both sides in ways that I would challenge anybody to tell me that they know better around those two things from an experiential point of view. So when we realized that there was a lot of research happening on this, we started researching it ourselves and reading. And one of the most powerful, I guess, pieces of wisdom and lessons came from a Micmac elder from the northern woodlands named Albert Marshall. It's this concept called two-eyed seeing, which is about bringing in different perspectives. Specifically, the two-eyed seeing concept is a guiding principle that encourages people to see the world through both the Western scientific knowledge lens and as well as the indigenous lens. We don't have indigenous representation on our team, so it's not exactly the way Elder Marshall designed, but we take the concept and framework and we say, we can add in a diverse lens of more relational, holistic ways of knowing. Add more dimension to this linear way of understanding that we've learned. It's not wrong. We can add to it so that the picture and information is more whole, so that we can make better and more whole and care-based choices. And it's really hard for me to describe this because this is such an experiential felt process for me. This next slide is the closest I can come to asking people to experience what two-eyed seeing might be. So I'm going to put up an image and I'm going to just leave it up there for about 20, 30 seconds. And I want people to just look at it. There is no right or wrong. Just know that. So if you're feeling anxiety, don't. I have no idea what people are thinking in their minds, but and this one I really loved because when I saw it, all I could focus on was the dark shadows of the camels. And I convinced myself that, wow, those are big black camels. Is basically what I convinced myself I was looking at because I completely did not see the actual camels in the picture creating the shadows. I was right. And there's another truth in it. And then this is where we can't get stuck. Because when we realize that there are two truths in that picture, all of a sudden it pops into dimension. Because if there are shadows, that means that there's a sun. We can't see the sun, but it can only be formed by something that is not in our abstract thinking until we have context to start putting the puzzle together. And if we even go a little further, if there's a sun, then we can actually get to a point of questioning, well, who took the picture? I mean, where are we? We are right here in this picture. We are right here. And yet we don't question or recognize that. And so a lot of this language thing is just asking people to zoom out and recognize themselves in the picture. I have another example that I like to demonstrate, and I'm going to be quiet and let the words do their own job. But this is an example about framing and how framing shapes the way we see a problem before we even a problem. I want to say problem because we view this as a problem. I view it more as a complexity and a richness to explore. But I want to show you an example of how that's done from current events. if you take values out of it and you stay intellectually, every single one of these is right. It's trying to get to the same purpose. And it becomes a matter of how you want to do it. And we're in a situation where a lot of people want to do it different ways. I think a lot of it is because we don't talk about these things to recognize that there are many of us that may want to do it a certain way because we have aligned values. It's not a judgment about what is right or wrong, but it's taking a look at our options here. It doesn't need to be binary. It's another example. So this is around the framing. When you look at the fear-based messaging approach there on the bottom, you can see the attempt to engage people by elevating the sense of emergency, of being under attack. And not only is this socially and culturally problematic because of the obvious nativist us versus them metaphors, but a little selfishly, it really leads to burnout for those of us who are working in this space. Because when we look at it from an either or and a win-lose, we are always losing if that is the way we're viewing it. And that's not a sustainable situation, and that's not a space where we can do our best work or have our best selves show up. And so this is fundamentally also just a human issue as well, as somebody who's been working in this space for a long time. And up there, when people feel welcomed and included and trusted and invited to be part of their community, they generally respond more positively. And again, there is scientific evidence-based data and research supporting this. And it's important, especially if the goal is to promote sustained interest in long-term stewardship ethics. And the learning and care-based approach on the top there is likely to be more effective. And I don't have the exact numbers, but a research group that they tested the messaging on this, it was something like 8 out of 10 people said that the messaging around the impact on what they care about was a lot more influential and meaningful to them. So I apologize, I don't have the exact statistics there, but it was significant. I was surprised when I heard it. Here are some examples, again, of different ways of framing an issue. And I just really like this because it highlights what we're talking about around these binaries. You can see the fear-based framing tends to leave us with very few options. But then when you actually go to the other side, which is saying the same exact thing, but just leaning in towards the area with more space and possibility, it becomes different with how I want to engage and how I internalize and process and show up for this. And I don't see this as a soft thing at all. I think this is a powerful and brave thing for agencies and individuals to really reflect on and look at what it means. You don't need to do it if you don't want, but truly, if you're actually present and you look at the way these are framed, and then you reflect on how you feel around each one, my hope is that people will do what feels good, whichever one that is for you. So our role as public servants here, what can we do? We are not the Agency of Ag, me, Ben, Judy, Stephanie, all of our partners. We can't mandate change, and we're certainly not going to police and mandate language. That's just not how it works. That won't work. Mandating and forcing is not the way. And we have learned in our systems that that is the most efficient way. It is not. The most sustainable way to do this is collaboratively and collectively. That being said, it is clear and important that there are guidelines and containers set, which I think our role as public servants, we can offer, not as as mandates, but as support systems. One of those ways is to like just encourage people to have these reflective points. And from our place in agriculture, we need to make some decisions to allow for us to continue our work. So what our strategy is to address these words and shift them into scientific grounded, neutral language that basically in a lot of ways is basically you turning and parking it in a neutral place so that the collective and the community of practitioners and professionals and academia who is doing research in this realm can come into that space and inform us with wisdom, with scientific based data, with the right language. This is not something that just a few people should own and force. That is wrong, and we will get it wrong if we don't include the people who understand this, and that includes other knowledge systems and ways of knowing. So we are going forward with what we can in the most, I guess, obvious way possible, but we're neutralizing and updating and modernizing the language in the policies and in how we communicate as a team. The noxious weed rule, we have renamed to be the Regulated Introduced Plant Species Quarantine. And instead of having the Vermont Invasive and Exotic Plant Advisory Committee as that advisory group that takes a look at pest risk assessments, we have renamed that to be the Regulated Introduced Plant Species Advisory Committee. And we think that this language does not dilute or make things more complicated. If you look at those two descriptions of the committee, which one actually is more helpful? And again, there's no right or wrong. Maybe for some people, the top one is. I would challenge people that somebody who hasn't been doing this for a while, you bring them into the room, most people will choose the ones that they actually understand and have context for. And this is all about remembering our own part, our presence in this bigger story, this collective life that we're part of. And we need to be willing to acknowledge and name our role in the introduction and the spread and the management of plant pest species around the world. And it might be a little uncomfortable, but it's imperative that we all understand that. None of this is going to change. I have family in a different part of the world. I don't want anything to stop. I think we're stronger and better because we connect with other parts of the world and we learn from each other. And we need to recognize that our actions have consequences and we can't give ourselves a pass. And I think, again, Vermont's very unique and important because there is a real sense of grounded accountability and wanting to do right by the land and for their community and stay true to their values. And I think that this is a message that kind of upholds Vermont values. Let us cultivate curiosity and embrace complexity and drive meaningful, effective solutions that are based in care. A lot of this is about redefining success. And we have a hard time doing that in our current system. And I'm so proud of my agency, the Agency of Agriculture, for understanding and allowing the space for something like this to occur and to protect and allow us to steward it in a really meaningful way. And it's challenging because we are asking people to have no fixed timeline because you can't force change. That's hard for people who want to see metrics and measure success in very specific ways. We're committed to modeling change rather than enforcing it. This comes down to being who and what we want to be and can be, and letting go of the expectation that we can force other people. but we want people to know there's a different way. And having experienced it, my team and I talk about this all the time. Having done this for a year and a half, it has impacted us personally, not just professionally. It's made us better people. It's made us more aware. It's made us more compassionate. It's made us more committed to this work. And then just letting things happen. A lot of this is about our own expectations, my expectations. I have to let go of how this is going to happen, because this isn't owned by any single person. It's stewarded by a group of people who care. But a lot of this is an unknown, and that's just the way it is. And I don't know what's going to happen. This could be torpedoed. I don't know. But at the very least, we are committed to doing what we need to do in our team and in our areas of influence to be who we need to be in these times. And it's very anchoring and grounding, sobering and empowering to be able to show people that there are ways to show up right now. Just may not look the way that we've been taught. So finally, this is a really beautiful thing I wanted to end on, but back in April, I worked closely, our team worked closely with the Vermont Land Trust and the Vermont Department of Forest Parks and Recreation on a community of practice gathering. So people working in the invasion ecology realm, there were some nonprofits, there were people from across the state agencies. There were about 60 of us in there. And we had an intentional space, 6 hours of connection time to talk about issues and explore, and with intentional curiosity. At the very beginning of the day, we started off with a baseline of what do people feel when we bring up the topic of invasive species. And this is what happened. And this is the word, we didn't know what was going to come. This was unplanned. This was our own little experiment. This is not scientifically grounded at all, but to me, it's symbolically very telling and important. So just look at those words, and then also just look at how they're organized. They're just kind of chaotic. There are a lot of edges. It feels unorganized, chaotic. 6 hours later, before everybody left, we said, can you tell us how you feel now around the same topic? And I'm going to show you what happened. This was not planned. It is beautiful. And the way I see it is I want folks to look at it like all of a sudden there is a visual heartbeat in the form of language. And I think that's powerful. It's okay if it's not, but I take my lessons from the collective, and that's pretty clear to me. And that's from my fellow Vermonters. So that is it for me. That was a lot longer than I expected, but I want to open it up for chats, for questions. And I have purposely muted most people. So if you want to say something, some people are able to, I think. See, that's why I love my team. Look at this. Look.
I see lots of clapping hands there. Emily, that was probably one of the most human presentations I've ever seen. So thank you very much for just humanizing this whole topic of and presentation.
I hope people, this will give a chance for more people to look at it. And I encourage, once this is posted on YouTube, people send it out, because frankly, I'm also, every single time I do this, I need people, to understand that this isn't scary. This is just, it feels so right when you actually make space for it and understand it. Kara, hang on, Kara, I'm going to actually unmute you. I'm going to allow the mic. Are you able to unmute yourself? There should be a mic button in the top dashboard there. There you go.
Yes. Hi. I I feel like I don't know if this is the right place for it, but certainly I'm a landscaper, and often concerns around pesticides and poisons in the landscape are brought up. So just sort of having the space to not talk about an invasion, I think, is really important, so that we can get a little more balance about how we interact with the plants and the landscape around us.
Thank you. Wait, is there a chat there? Is there a question? Ginger, go for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to hop off, Emily, for another meeting, but I just really appreciated this, and thought that you did such a great job at articulating things so clearly. And even though I work in this realm every day, my organization was one of those ones up on the slide. It was really helpful seeing it all laid out, especially the process with the noxious weeds, and the camel slide was so revealing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I'm actually going to stop the recording now. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you all so much for putting this together.